everyone. This week we're going to be talking about implementation and training, and really talking about preparing users for the software implementation. And this goes along with the four-part series on project managing and HR, any type of HR technology implementation. So it turns out one of the most difficult aspects of implementing software is the training. In order to effectively train users for new HR software, you really need to understand the different user roles, the tech savviness level of your audience, who will deliver the training, the vendor or the HR department, and planning is key to effective training. In terms of understanding the roles, you really have to understand how are managers going to be using the new HR software, regardless of if it's a HRIS or an applicant tracking system or ATS. You have to have a very clear understanding of how the different users will be interacting with the systems. Some of the questions you'll be asking is, will managers be approving timesheets, time off, or other changes in the systems? Will employees be able to go into the system to change their address, request leave, or select their benefit enrollments? And who will be administering the HR system within the HR department? The reason why it's important to understand these roles is because training needs to be specific to those roles. So you might have to have different training based on how the different users will be using the system. Secondly, you need to understand your audience to the extent that you can, and this kind of goes along with the discussion or conversation around change management and how that impacts the implementation process. You need to know the level of comfort your employees have with technology. For some of us who work in the technology sector or have worked in the technology sector, that seems like a weird or counterintuitive term, but I've worked in other sectors or industries where the reality was employees of the company, they'd been doing things for so long, even if it was doing something with the paper form, that the idea of even changing or digital, making it into a digital process or changing the overall process in and of itself was just very difficult for them to grasp. So it's really important to understand, how your employees feel about technology and how they'll actually receive it. And understanding how this change will be received is key to a successful transition. Similar to how I'm approaching teaching Tableau, it's important to have different types of training available. So, the videos, the case study booklets, in-person sessions, all of those different methods of training people is important because everyone learns very differently from one another. Understand who is responsible for training. This happens often that a company buys an application from a vendor and the expectation automatically is that the vendor is responsible for training employees on new software. Well, that can happen, but some vendors do provide training, but for an additional cost. And certain vendors, they might provide in-person training, video, or other types of online training. But there are vendors for different software, HR software technologies that don't offer any training at all. So it becomes the responsibility of training employee. The responsibility goes to the HR department to train employees on whatever new software it is that's being implemented. As with all aspects of implementing new HR technology, you have to plan for the training. You need to be able to, when you're working on your project timeline, understand and figure out how far from the go-live date will training be conducted. So for instance, if you are doing a training specific for managers and a separate training specific for employees, you have to gauge about how long you think it will take for that training to occur. Will you do it over a 1 or 2 day period or over a week? And that timeline needs to be built into the overall project plan. Also need to think about things like, how will the company train remote employees? Again, will you have them attend via Zoom? Will it be online? There are a lot of considerations there when it comes to creating a plan to actually train the folks on whatever new technology is being implemented. And again, timing is important in terms of how long will the training last. It can be anything from one day to a week or a month, depending on the complexity of the software, how the user, the employee is going to be using the software, and what their actual role will be in terms of interacting with the software. So, in conclusion, effectively training employees on new HR software is a measure of successful implementation. One of the key measures of understanding whether or not your project has been successful is whether or not you've trained employees and whether they've adopted the new software. Understanding the company culture is key to knowing what type and what level of training to provide. And you have to plan for training from a timing perspective in terms of being able to build that time into your project plan. So this is a very short lecture on training and implementation. In addition to this short lecture, you'll also be reading a couple of articles that are specific to implementing and training employees for HR technology. Thank you.